part 3 of my episodes on my favorite things. And today I'm going to be talking about the fabulous live theatre that I have seen recently. And there's going to be a few things to report back, so it might be quite a long episode. Get ready. I want to be talking about some things that are close to home and some things that I saw in New York as well. So let's start with the close to home things. 9 to 5, which is a fabulously fun musical, opened earlier in the year in Sydney. It's doing the rounds of Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, as most of the big shows do. And Carolyn O'Connor is such a classic Australian musical theatre, queen. And she stars along with Marina Pryor, who would take, exactly the same title in this awesome show. Gosh, it's a lot of fun. The ensemble are really amazing. The choreography is tight. The sets are awesome. Dolly Parton makes an appearance just on the screen, not in real life. But of course, the music is based on her fabulous music and the movie that she was in. And if you know the story well, then it's a lot of good fun. So if you need something that's a pick-me-up, a show to go and see that's a pick-me-up, then I encourage you to check out 9 to 5. An overload for the senses is Mulan Rouge, the musical, which is playing at the moment. It's just transferred to Sydney and from a big run in Melbourne. And it is a lavish musical, as you would expect with Moulin Rouge. If you're a fan of the movie, then you will absolutely love the musical. There's an elephant on stage, for goodness sakes, like a big elephant, not a real elephant, but a big blingy fabulous elephant. I mean, the whole place, they've just transformed the theatre. It's like you're stepping off the street into a completely different world. That happens even before the show starts. So even if you just go for the sets, it's completely worth it. It won the Tony for Best Musical. And of course, this is the Australian version with an Australian cast, and they are stellar as well. So Moulin Rouge is good fun. I got the opportunity to see the Heathers for the first time a little bit earlier in the year. And the Heathers is a musical that has a cult following. If there are people that love the Heathers, they're obsessed with the Heathers. I'd never seen it. I'd heard the music, but I'd never seen it live. And I was lucky enough to see a production in Sydney that starred one of our ex-students. So it was, doubly sweet for me. Not only did I get to see this fabulous show, but I was so incredibly proud and just filled to the brim with pride watching Sam out there, who was playing one of the lead guys in the show, and he was just brilliant, and I was so incredibly proud. So the Heathers is a fun show. It's out there for amateur release at the moment. So if no matter what neck of the woods you're in, a production of the Heathers can pop up at any time, and it is good fun. So if you get the chance to check that out, make sure you do. Of course, Hamilton has transferred to Melbourne. I was lucky enough to see the Australian production twice, the Sydney cast twice, here in Sydney, and then it's the same cast that's gone to Melbourne. And that is, that means I've seen Hamilton a couple of times, and it never gets old. And it's good from the balcony, it's good from the stalls, it's good from the orchestra, it's good from the very back corner. It's just a wonderful show. And if you haven't watched it on Disney Plus, I encourage you to do that before you go, which I wouldn't do for many shows. I like people to be surprised. So I often say, don't listen to the music, don't read anything about it, just go and be completely surprised. But with Hamilton, it moves so quickly, and the words are so fast and the singing is so fast that I feel like if you have the opportunity to watch it on Disney Plus, then do so that when you go, you are, you can immerse yourself a bit more fully in the experience, because Hamilton is, it is the show of our lifetime. I tell people it's the Les Mis of our lifetime. It'll be going forever and ever. You will take your children, they will take their children, and their children will take their children's children to Hamilton. It will never die. It's an incredible show. When I went to New York, I got to see some incredible shows, and I'll probably save the best to last, but I got to see the Tina Turner musical, which I was looking forward to. And I'm not saying it first because it was the worst. In no way, it's Broadway, so nothing's bad. But the Tina Turner musical is so much fun, and it's like a rock concert at the end. The lights are flashing and the band is on stage, and she's just working her butt off. All of the incredible cast in this show just works all night, and especially Tina, and it was wonderful to see, especially because I'd looked forward to it for so long. And I hadn't listened to any of the music, but you already know the Tina Turner music, so that there's like this anticipation throughout the show. You're waiting for these big songs to hit. Simply the best. And I'm a private dancer, and all of those Tina Turner songs, you Proud Mary, you're just waiting for them to come. When they do, it's so exciting and so thrilling. And I was in the audience with a whole audience that were just thrilled to be back in the theater, thrilled to be back on Broadway, and just absolutely giving so much love to the performers on stage. And that's always fun as well. So we saw Tina, the Tina Turner musical. We saw Company, which was phenomenal, with Patti LuPone. It was like a masterclass in Broadway acting. It was a Wednesday matinee, and every actor on the stage was phenomenal. I'm talking Tony winners, Tony nominees, Drama Desk winners. Like the lineup, the cast in this show is just, I can't rave more highly. And to see Patti LuPone up there was just, so incredibly good. The sets and the way that they restaged this Sondheim classic was wonderful. So if you get the chance to see Company, it's running for a little bit longer, and hopefully it will also tour, because it's a feast. It's an absolute feast. I loved it. I got to see Billy Joel. That kind of doesn't count as theatre, but we went and saw Billy Joel live at Madison Square Garden, and that was an experience. We got to sit in the front row and watch Hugh Jackman be the Music Man at the Winter Garden Theatre. We were in the front row of the balcony. I should clarify, we weren't front row, but the balcony was still where he could see us and where we could see him. And he danced and danced and danced all night. And I didn't expect that from him. I expected the ensemble to dance, because I knew they had hired a massive ensemble. Something like 21 young actors and actresses made their Broadway debuts as part of the show. So I knew there was a big cast of incredible dancers, and I knew they would dance. And I thought Hugh would join in at the beginning and then, watch a little bit, or, go around to each of the characters and then dance in the finale. And he didn't. He danced all the way through it. He just did not stop working the entire night. And then he came out and worked the stage door all the way to his limo. So he looks like he's having a fantastic time on stage, and he looks like he's having a fantastic time at the theatre, living that Broadway life. And I'm so incredibly stoked for him. And I'm so incredibly stoked at how good he was as well. People rave about him and how he's the nicest guy. And I thought, maybe that would mean that he would be kind of just so, but people would let him get away with it because he's Hugh Jackman, right? So you're going to go, oh, get on you, Hugh. But he was so good. He was so brilliant. And so that was a really perfect night at the theatre. It could not be more perfect. And fun fact, we were there while they were raising money for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which they do every year. They do, a couple of weeks where at the end of every show, they have people, it used to be people from the cast, and now because of COVID, it's not people from the cast, but they have volunteers with red buckets that stand at the door and collect money for Broadway Cares. And Broadway Cares is this incredible fundraising agency in New York that raises money, gave so much money to people during COVID, Broadway actors and Broadway dancers and people who were out of work. And they began during the AIDS crisis, and now they continue, and they provide so much aid and fundraising for so many different incredible causes. And so, during this time, they always collect money, but they stopped at the end of the show of The Music Man, and Hugh took off his white glove and he said, "I'll sign this glove." And Sutton Foster, who was his opposite and just as superb as Sutton always is, she took off her glove and signed it as well. And they put them together and they auctioned them off, and they raised $22,000 on the night for Broadway Cares, which was just so cool to be part of, because there's some of the cast members were like the auctioneers, and people in the audience are putting their hands up, and I was sitting there like feeling quite confident before they started, and Heath was looking at me like, don't you bet the house on a pair of Hugh Jackman's gloves. And I was thinking, you know what, I'm gonna put $500. I'll put my hand up for $500. And then they started the auction. They said the bidding will start at $1,000, and I was like, I didn't even get a look in. But then I've seen videos on Hugh's Instagram since we were there where, some nights they're raising $50,000 for Broadway Cares. So if they're doing that every night of the week and did it for 2 weeks, like that's an incredible amount of money, an incredible amount of generosity from these Broadway audiences. And of course, when they get to the end, they're, saying, okay, 22,000, here's your pair of gloves. But we have another glove, who was the second highest bidder? Would you also match that? And and then raising it a little bit more. And if they won't match it, then saying, okay, well, will you do it for 15 and adding to that fundraising. So that was really cool to be part of, and really, really cool to see so much money being raised for such a good cause. On the Saturday, we saw David Byrne's American Utopia. If you're a fan of Talking Heads, you would have loved this rock concert in a Broadway theatre. We had a really fun time. It's available to watch now on Apple TV. Spike Lee filmed the Broadway version, and it's such good fun. I encourage you to watch it. They're all in grey suits if you're looking for the trailer. So much fun. We also got to see Hadestown, which we were so looking forward to because it won the Tony a couple of years ago, and we hadn't got to see it. And of course, COVID stopped us from doing any of that. So some of the original cast members were still in it, including Andre de Shields, who, is 77 and was still phenomenal on stage. He's just announced that he's finishing up his Broadway run. He was just so spectacular. It was really good to see. We saw Dear Evan Hansen as well, and we went and saw Six, which is good fun. We'd seen Six in Australia, but it was good to see the Broadway cast do it as well. I got to watch Funny Girl on its second preview night. Beanie Feldstein and Ramin Karimloo and Jane Lynch. I was in the front row watching Jane Lynch. She was like right in front of me, and as a big Glee fan, that was super cool. And now I have to tell you what my favorite thing was, and I feel really kind of awkward talking about this being my favorite thing because I felt awkward going to the show in the first place. And that was the Michael Jackson musical. And you feel awkward because, of course, the documentary came out a couple of years ago, and there are so many allegations that Michael Jackson wasn't the person that we thought he was. And so of course you don't want to do anything to support him or that, or you feel for the victims. And so there's so much controversy around this show existing. And of course it was in pre-production before any of that started. And a little bit of time has passed, and so we bought tickets to this show because there's a lot of hype around it, and I do love Michael Jackson's music. And so we kind of felt a bit funny going along on the first night, like, should we really be telling people we're going to see this show? And I have to tell you, it was the best thing we saw. It was phenomenal. Oh, the guy who played Michael Jackson, it was like we were just watching Michael Jackson. And there were people in the crowd who thought we were watching Michael Jackson. They were screaming, "We love you, Michael." Michael. And it's like, it's not Michael, it's just a guy playing Michael. But they of course they know that, but he was just so good that you thought that's what you were watching. It was just phenomenal. It's all based around it's not kind of a life story of Michael Jackson. It's based around the rehearsal period before his Big Dangerous tour. And it talks about, it shows him in rehearsal and him making decisions and acting and behaving in certain ways. And then there are flashbacks to his childhood, and the flashbacks kind of, what happens in his childhood kind of tells you why he behaves the way he behaves in the rehearsal studio, because apparently those rehearsals were really heated in the lead up to that tour. And there was a lot of pressure on him. If the tour didn't go well, he was going to lose Neverland. So there was a lot of external pressure and internal pressure for that to be successful. And that kind of all comes out as part of the show. And the show is wonderful. It's so spectacular. And I still don't know how to feel about that. But I did have a really good time in the theatre, and I'm absolutely rooting for the lead actor in terms of Tony Awards this season. So that's exciting. There's a few of my favourite things, just a few. Thank you so much for joining me for this 3-part series. This has been episode 3. We'll get back to our regular business programming, or our regular motherhood and marriage programming now that these episodes have concluded. But I do get so many requests for my favorite things episodes, and it really is quite sweet that you actually give 2 hoots what it is that I'm binging or enjoying. What's getting me by during this time. So thank you so much for the feedback. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. If you're a big theatre fan and you just absolutely love today's episode, please let me know what show you're really looking forward to seeing, or what you've seen that you loved as well. Take a screenshot of this episode, put it on your Insta story, and tag me. I'm at Simply Stacey Morgan on Instagram. My mouth actually hurts from all the smiling I've done talking about these things for the last 3 episodes. So I hope you've enjoyed. I appreciate you taking the time to put me in your earbuds, and I look forward to talking to you next week.